Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and I'm here at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park with Scott Driscoll, author of Better You Go Home. Scott, welcome to Author.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Scott, you know, it's funny because even though this is only the second time I've met you, I do feel like I've known you for a while because I have friends who have taken classes from you for years. And this is your first novel that you've published, but you've been working in writing and well, for years now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Either writing nonfiction and also for teaching.
Yeah. So I started off writing short stories a long time ago for a literary fiction audience, which means you're writing for literary reviews because that's what it is.
Right.
Finally, when I cleared the decks enough to do it, I spent 4 years working on a novel without thinking through the structure, even though I knew better, and I ended up wasting that 4 years of effort, threw it away. At that point, I got really busy writing for magazines because I needed to make some money, and I wanted an audience. I wanted bylines, and I just could not even touch fiction. It was such a horrific experience.
Not even short fiction.
Not even short fiction. But then little by little I got over it, and then I wrote a couple more short stories, got one published in a pretty nice anthology with some pretty big names in it, and the guy who owned it was also published by a small press. It was in New York. The guy who owned the press called me personally and said, "I really liked your story. Do you have a novel?" And I said, "No." I'd thrown away that other one.
Right.
It was trash.
Right.
I said, "No." He said, "Well, you need to get busy on one, and as soon as you have one, send it to me." So that was the incentive to me to get started. But I still need to do a lot of research. What finally showed up here is a result of a lot of traveling and talking to people and interviewing people. And
You know, you talk about structure, and you said that the first novel you tried, the thing that you didn't have, and I should say, you know, I've talked to so many writers, and many of them just say, structure, I don't know, I just go and it works. For some writers, that's really the method.
yeah,
So everyone has a different approach, but for you, you needed that structure.
Absolutely.
You needed that
Yeah.
structure and what does that mean to you when you say learn the structure? What is that exactly? Because sometimes, well, anyway, you answer.
well,
What is
okay,
that?
let's take short stories, for example. There's a story arc. If there's any kind of a plot at all, there's a story arc. It has a beginning, middle, and end, but that's just the beginning. Knowing that isn't enough. So, for example, when I realized I didn't really know how to write a short story, I had some idea, but I had some idea about character, I had some idea about language, I had some idea about what to do to cause tension, but I didn't really understand the form. So I started buying as many literary journals as I could. Actually, I got them free. I would write letters to magazines and say, "Do you have any back stock?" They were happy to get it off their shelves.
Right.
They would send me 5 or 6 copies. So I had boxes and boxes of these magazines, and I read them, and I examined how those stories were built, and that's when I started to learn story structure really for the first time. I began to see that the beginning was actually there's actually a mechanism that has to be in place at the beginning, or the story's not going to work. I won't go into detail about it, but that's how.
The inciting action, kind of.
Yeah, inciting incident. There has to be something that's like an event that has to be reacted to that sufficiently disturbs the main character's world that the main character will actually do something and embark on some form of a quest, and which means pursuing a goal, and will therefore encounter opposition. So these are all things that I understood intuitively, but I didn't have a form to put it in.
Right.
And once I had the form to put it in, then I actually started to write stories that had a beginning, middle, and end, and could actually be published.
You know, it's so interesting because so much of what writing is, and I know this is true for myself and a lot of the writers I know, is you don't know what you know until you write it. And so you knew, because you'd read stories, and you'd watch movies, and
Sure.
you know, every sitcom follows that arc to some degree.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Right? So you knew that story structure, but until you didn't know it until you could articulate it.
Yeah, yes,
Right?
yes.
You went on to teach it, of course, too.
Yes.
And it must have been helpful for you teaching it. Or maybe not. Did
Yeah,
you?
yes,
Was it?
terrifically. Oh, God, absolutely. terrifically.
How so?
Well, so I didn't teach right away. I never even thought about teaching. I just took copious notes. I have no idea. Probably in a box somewhere. I even still have those notes. While in the MFA program, my mentor, my thesis mentor, I won't name names, had to leave town for a couple weeks because he'd won some award. And he said, I need somebody to teach my undergraduate classes while I'm gone. Could you do it? Sure, why not? So with no more prep than the notes I already had,
Wow.
I went in to teach the class, and after the first hour I realized, I actually know more than I realized.
Yeah.
I actually can teach this. I actually have some craft that I can impart to these kids. So at that point I thought, okay, I'm going to be more systematic about this. I'm going to start seeking sources deliberately. And I took a lot of notes. I photocopied a lot of things. I put together my own sort of course packet. So that's how that got started. And once I started doing that, of course, now I was deliberately reading everything that I could that bore on the craft of literary fiction.
Yeah.
You know, including, it started to guide my own reading of novels and short stories, because now I had a purpose. Now I had a forum, if you will.
Yeah. Speaking of learning,
Yeah.
so here's your first published novel.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to write another one.
Yep.
So what did you learn writing this one that you're taking to the next one?
All right.
If you can think of one or two things.
Yeah, first and most importantly, I learned that it has to have a structure, and you save yourself a lot of time if you just accept that and write into the structure. When I first started off on this thing, I got so interested in my family story, and in Prague, and in the Czech Republic, and in the whole history of the Eastern Bloc countries, I wanted to include it all in the book. So in the early rounds, I'm showing chapters to my writers group, and they're going, you know, there's no through story here. This reads like a travel log. It's like you're trying to write about absolutely everything that you ever discovered over there. So find the story and stay on track with the story. I had to mess around for a couple of years before I finally took that advice. And then I had to start over from the beginning. And this time I had to really lay the tracks for the story spine and really have my protagonist going on a quest and stay on the story spine. That was a hard lesson to learn. I knew that from writing short stories. I had learned that lesson ages ago writing short stories. But I somehow had this idea that writing a novel you could get away with being sloppy. And
So you think that the next one you start, you're gonna go in with your eyes on that narrative arc.
oh, I already have my eye on that
good.
narrative arc.
All right, good man.
Oh, yes.
Scott, I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
And what I want you to do is finish this sentence for me.
All right.
If writing has taught me anything, it's taught me what?
To persevere.
Persevere. Because you had a lot of years where it
Yes.
seemed like there might not be a lot coming your way.
And you face a lot of rejection along the way. No one cares. You're not a star. You're not making money. Not much. Some, but you know, not much. There's a lot of pressure on you to do something else with your time. And if it matters to you, you have to persevere. And those who persevere achieve. It's not the people who are most brilliant. It's the ones who persevere.